Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Hey everybody, this is Tank Sinatra. You're listening to the Think Tank Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad to have you here. If you're enjoying the show, please do me a favor. Head over to iTunes and leave a review. I love reading them. And if you want access to the full archive with episodes such as Jesse Itzler, Dan Soder, Derek Huff, DMC, go to gasdigitalnetwork.com and use promo code TANK for 2 free weeks and access to all the other shows on the network. Enjoy the episode.
Are they all here?
All but one.
Well, I'm going anyway.
I'm the best at what I do.
You're listening to the Think Tank Podcast
Look at that fucking smile on my face.
with your host, Tank Sinatra.
Hey, you're listening to the Think Tank Podcast. And I'm here with James Wilks, the director, star, vegan connoisseur of the Game Changers movie. James.
Thanks for having me on, Tank. Really
Thanks for coming, bro. You're fucking doing everything. Yeah, I was, to be honest, when I reached out to you initially, I was like, there's no way this guy's going to get back to me. And then when you reached out to me and told me you were coming to New York, I was like, this guy's sharp. You're a sharp dude.
I almost forgot, but I've been getting so many requests recently. I was like, wait, there was, yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to come on here.
I mean, I'm busy, but I imagine your life has got to have completely changed in the last year or so.
It's been really busy, yeah, since the film came out. I was really busy making the film.
Yeah.
Because not only was I in it, but narrating it, but also like producing it, right? So raising the money and, obviously there was lots of people on the team, and especially Joseph Pace, the other producer and writer, but just putting together shoots, people don't realize how much work it is to make a documentary.
Yeah, and so that was your brainchild, right? Game Changers?
Yeah, definitely. I was getting into it early on, then Joseph Pace did. So between the two of us, yeah, it's our brainchild, basically.
People, I had a friend of mine on, Adam the Creator, and he's a very talented, hardworking, disciplined, creative guy. And we kind of went off on a tangent a little bit about how, because I want to understand why people love to tear shit down and why people love to just see destruction of something that they didn't create. And it's really not easier. It's just more like they assume that the creative content, whatever it is, whether it's a meme, a movie, a video, a book, or an article, whatever, they assume that it's as fun to create it as it is to consume it. And it's not.
Right.
It's not. It's a real arduous process.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially when things are stitched together with music and like it's just 90 minutes. Like you think, that doesn't take much work. But like we could have told the story 1,000 ways. There was 600 hours of footage, and 50 people didn't even make the film.
600 hours of footage?
Yeah, 600 hours down to like 82 minutes, basically.
And I don't. If somebody's never done something where they have to take stuff out, everyone thinks it's harder to add stuff. So if you got assigned an essay when you were in grade school or high school, it had to be 1,000 words. It's like you think getting to that 1,000-word point is the hardest part. It's much harder to write 2,000 words than pare it down to 1,000.
Yeah, it's and the trailer is really hard because then you got to try and like think what can we put. The smaller it is, the less. You got to really refine it and get the best stuff in there.
How can you make it as attractive as possible?
Right.
And you had no experience making movies before this.
No,
right?
None. Yeah.
So how did you figure it out?
I mean, early on, I woke up at 2 a.m. when I was starting this plant-based journey. I was giving it a try for myself. I thought, I've really been lied to. I got to make a documentary about this or put something out there. So I went on YouTube, learned how to do the 3-point lighting, and I called the director of photography from The Ultimate Fight that I'd met, Everett Motta, and asked him, what camera do I buy? And started like interviewing some people when they were in town, and didn't have much of a budget really, and I knew I'd either like sort of edit it myself and put something out there, like dispel the myth about protein, the animals are just the middlemen, so just get something out about it, or use the footage to get other people interested, and that's ended up what happening after I met Joseph.
So you boot or shoestring some stuff together, and that's what you use to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You're a very resourceful guy. I don't really know you that well. Obviously, we just met, but just from listening to you talk for a few minutes in the car, I pride myself on being able to get things done, even if I don't know how to do them, because I don't know how to do a lot. And I remember deciding as a young kid, I don't know how to do a lot. I can't just not do stuff because I don't know how to do it.
Right.
You got to be able to figure it out somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you basically either try and figure it out how to do it yourself, or you basically recruit other people, and help sort of guide them and like choose people that can't, who can. I don't know how to use a camera still, really. Not properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can use basics, but you get someone that's really good with the camera. And then I don't know, I can do basics of editing, but I'm not going to be able to edit a documentary.
Yeah.
Find the best people that you can get. And then, if you're going to recruit these people just think so small. And I used to think, $1 million or something is a lot of money. And then I remember driving near my house, the city, Laguna Hills I was living in at the time. And I remember they'd sent out a letter to all residents saying, here's how we spent some of the taxes. Mm-hmm. And there was like this little pathway and a little bit of greenery in this very small area. Like, here's how we spent $2 million. I was thinking, holy shit, if that like tiny bit of land in this like small city costs $2 million, like I've got to be able to raise more than that, in the whole world, like people that are interested in plant-based eating for the animals, for the environment, for health, for performance, like. Yeah. And I just started, like, if you start seeing it differently of what you can achieve, right? Should I try and just get any director, or do I get the director that's got the most award-winning documentary of all time? Do I get just sort of people that don't have the biggest names to put funds in and be executive producers, or do I get the best people, like just aim higher and try and put out the best quality stuff, whatever you're doing?
Did you find like you were swishing all the shots that you took, everyone just said yes, or was it were you getting a lot of resistance? Or because sometimes things just go, sometimes you just get not an easy run, but like things just kind of seem to go your way for a little while. Is that?
No, it was never easy. It took a long time to get the people that we wanted to interview, to edit, to do whatever. Because when you get people at that level, they're busy and they got a lot of stuff on.
Oh yeah.
So trying to get the time to meet with James Cameron, he was very accommodating and really helpful. But it's difficult. Like trying to get the time with Arnold. I remember he was 2 hours late and then sat down. He goes, "You got 2 minutes. Go."
Really?
And they were like, "Oh." And he said, "No, just kidding."
Fuck.
He was kidding.
Just broke my heart.
I was like, what, 2 minutes? Like,
yeah.
What questions are we going to... And, like, he would have given us a lot longer, but he ended up just smashing it, like, 20 minutes. He would have given us an hour or more, whatever, for that first interview, but he was so on point. Every answer was and he covered, like, so many topics, about the protein myth and the gladiators and all this other stuff that we obviously couldn't use all of it in the documentary. You got to cut loads of stuff out, like you said. But
did you ever think about turning it into a docu-series, or was that never an option for you guys?
I think we did at one point, but then we just thought, like, how do you ensure that everyone gets all of that information? Because people say, "Oh, make a second documentary now," but it's so much work and effort, and like, what are you gonna add? I mean, it would be additive, but it wouldn't be worth the time and effort to like dispel some more myths, because I think the key myths that we've broken by showing that film. But I think there's a chance that we could do some sort of series to add on down the road. But I think just doing small vignettes like on social media and stuff and putting stuff out that way is probably going to be the way to keep spreading the message.
The supporting stuff that you guys did, I was also very impressed with, especially the website. Mm-hmm. I found that the website, I've never seen anything like that before. The documentary was so good. And I know that over the past few months or however, 6 months since the movie's come out, I don't want to argue with you at all about science, especially. I just want to talk about, I'm more interested in, because I'm a 250-pound meathead from Long Island. Like that's been my identity for so long. And what happened was my wife eats very healthy, portion control, like she's super moderate in everything she eats. She makes good decisions like across the board, and she inspires me. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's a chiropractor, and I said to him, I think I want to like really cut down on the meat, because I was eating eggs, chicken twice a day, eggs every day, 6 eggs every day, chicken twice a day, 6 to 8 ounces with other, rice or sometimes vegetables, rarely. And then red meat at night. And I was like, it's too much. And when you eat that much chicken, you're bound to get one of those pieces that just ruins chicken for you for like 3 hours. You bite into it, you're like, oh, fuck, that was gross. And then you can't eat the rest of the meal. So I had been going through that for years and years and trying different sources. Okay, I'm going to get it from this supermarket. And I got a bad piece out of that batch. I'm going to do this one, the free range or grass-fed beef only or ground meat only or whatever. And it was like I painted myself into this corner where I was like, I'm out of meat options here. Like I can't go any further down the path with this stuff. I got to cut it out or at least cut it down. And we watched that movie. My wife and I watched that movie, and here's where I was sold personally. We watched the movie on a Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, I had some eggs because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah, I didn't have any chicken or any meat for the rest of that day. Oh. Thursday, I didn't have anything. No eggs, no dairy, no meat, no nothing. And then Friday, I went to jiu-jitsu, which I have historically had real crazy inflammation in my elbows and shoulders. And at the end of the class, I did like 3 sets of 10 pull-ups and there was no inflammation at all. Yeah, or not crazy, none, but like a noticeable
significant
amount less.
noticeable difference. Yeah, it's crazy to me. That was what surprised me is how quickly things can actually have an impact.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, okay, what you eat now might affect like 50 years from now, but it's not even like a week. There's actual physiological differences after a single meal. Which
Well,
is
like
crazy
the
to me.
burrito experiment in the
exactly.
movie.
Yep.
Was that something that you were excited to get out there? Did you know that was going to happen, or obviously you had to have
So there was
some
two, right? There was the one with the Miami Dolphins looking at the blood, and we could have gone a lot deeper into that. So the research for the last 20 years shows that not only does people say, oh, well, what does it matter that the blood is cloudy, but there's in alignment with the blood being cloudy, there's also they'll look at the arteries under ultrasound, and you can see occlusion and like the arteries.
What's occlusion?
Like the tightening, they're like the arteries just can't expand. About 50% they're reduced endothelial function. The lining of the arteries that produces that nitric oxide that is a vasodilating.
When you eat meat?
Yeah. When you eat a heavy animal-based meal, it doesn't have to be meat. It could also be heavy in dairy or something like that.
Yeah.
Your endothelium, that's what's happening with that. What's called postprandial lipemia. It just means after you eat.
What the fuck did you just say?
Postprandial means after eating. Lipemia.
Postprandial panda hypothermia. You got
that's the lipemia. Basically, it's the milkiness in the blood in those vials, right? And when it looks milky, it's also we could have shown more studies showing how you do ultrasound, you can see those arteries just aren't opening up as much.
Yeah,
and that's happening for like 6 to 8 hours. Then what do you do again? You eat more shit again. And, you're basically constantly impairing your arterial function, less oxygen, less nutrients to the muscles.
More tired.
And inflammation, right? And more tired, less energy. And so you can actually feel a difference. Now, it depends how much you shift and where you're at to start with, right? Some people might be eating a mostly plant-based diet with a bit of fish and a bit of chicken. They might not notice the difference as much as someone that's eating the standard American diet and then goes sort of all whole foods. And I don't think people should do it overnight necessarily.
How come?
Well, it depends. So 90% of Americans are deficient in fiber. They're not getting enough fiber. And if you there's different types of bacteria in your gut. Mm-hmm. And so meat requires putrefying bacteria. So it putrefies the meat, basically like rotting, away. And so then you've got more fermenting.
It rots the meat inside you? Is that what you're
putrefies
saying?
it, basically, versus fermenting bacteria. And so if you switch all of a sudden to like a lot more fiber, then you can get gastrointestinal distress while you're having food that you're not used to.
Yeah.
You can get bloating and gas and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So if you switch overnight, some people do that and they do great.
Yeah.
But some people, they go, I'm a bit uncomfortable. Also, if you switch overnight, you might be used to the amount of food. People think you go hungry, but actually you get full because a lot of plant foods are low in caloric density.
Yeah.
So you end up, maybe you're eating less calories.
Yeah.
Which is great if you're trying to lose body fat, but if you're trying to gain muscle and size, you want to be in a caloric surplus, or at least the same calories in as calories out.
Yeah.
Right. So I think for most people, and also if you say I'm going to go all in, and then you fail one day and you think, I can't think what to eat. I'll just grab a burger from McDonald's and it's a meat burger or whatever. I mean, these days, most fast food restaurants have also, they've also got plant-based options. But if you feel, and then you feel like you fell off and you think it's all or nothing, then you feel like you failed and you're like, fuck that, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, I think gradually drawing in and think of it as like all or something rather than all or nothing.
Yeah.
If you can go all the way in, great. And for me, I don't eat any animal products.
Ever?
No, I mean, not intentionally. No, I mean, I don't, if I'm at a restaurant and there's bread, I don't say, hey, is there any dairy or, egg in that bread or whatever. But I mean, I don't intentionally consume any animal products.
Yeah, I've definitely, I've had over the last, I'm trying to think of when I watched it. It had to have been 4 months ago, about. And since then, I've had maybe 2 pieces of filet mignon and a serving of chicken, some fish.
Yeah.
But that's it. I ate the same amount of meat over the past 4 months that I would eat in a day.
Right.
Before that. Every day, 365 days a year.
Right. And that's what's important, right? It's like what you're eating most of the time.
And I was most amazed because I didn't go from a typical standard Western diet, let's call it, of garbage food and then go vegan. I ate pretty healthy. I ate eggs, oatmeal, vegetables, fruit, chicken. It was what I was taught was healthy. I was always very scared of carbs.
Right.
Very scared of carbs because I didn't want to be fat. I didn't want to be bloated. Too late for that. But I found myself after watching the movie not scared of meat products, but the energy that I put into avoiding carbs went into avoiding animal products,
right?
Especially dairy, because I've reintroduced each thing individually And dairy gave me the most problems.
Yeah.
The most trouble.
Yeah, that's
just
from a
as
lot
far
of
as
people.
feeling bad. My stomach is torn up. It's like, oh my God, is the yogurt really worth it? And there's so many options. There's so many options for substitutes. It's almost like with, do you know the brand Gardein?
Yeah.
Oh man, is that good or no?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's always, when you say, is it good or is it healthy, is it good for you?
Am I going to die?
No, so it's always compared to what,
Compared to chickens or whatever.
Yeah, compared to chicken, for sure, it's better. But compared to like a 3-bean chili or a bowl of lentil soup or something, it's not as healthy, right? So the more processed, so the main split, the first split is plants and animals. Get as many plants in as possible. And within plants, whole foods versus processed versus heavily processed. Like the more you shift towards less processed, more whole, in the original state, it's going to be better. And like processed is a bit of a nebulous term, right? So what does that mean? If you cut an apple in half, that's a process. If you cook something, that's a process.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like highly processed where they've ripped out the fiber. That's not going to be as good as if you eat more whole foods.
Yeah.
And but eating it, occasionally, all that stuff is, it's not it's not black or white. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is surprising for me because I've been very black and white my whole life, especially with things like certain things. Like I got sober young at 22, and I know still to this day if I decide to take a sip of alcohol or smoke some weed or take a pill or do whatever, I don't know. The scary part is I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
It may be okay for a day or a week or a month or a year or 5 years, but I want to live a long time. And if 5 years from now I'm back where I was when I stopped drinking originally, I don't ever want to feel that way again.
Yeah. And I think, no, for sure. For black and white, for some situations.
With the food, it's very different.
Yeah, I think so. It's, I think some people do better actually. Because anytime your brain has a drive to reward you for fat, sugar, and salt.
Yeah.
Right. So we sort of developed over a period where it's hard to find calories in fat, sugar, and salt. So your brain would reward you. But now you've got a compass for an area of which no longer applies. You know what I'm saying? So your compass is off.
Wait, hold on. So say that one more time. We developed a reward system for fat, sugar, and salt because there wasn't calories in it?
Yeah, because there wasn't enough calories. Like it was hard to find those calories often, right?
To find calories from fat, sugar, or salt.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like calorically dense foods, or your brain is rewarding you, trying to say, yeah, this is good. You need this fuel, right? But now you can go to the grocery store, you go to the fast food restaurant, you can go anywhere and get calories, as many as you want.
Yeah.
At least in the developed world, right?
As many as you can afford.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like shitty food can be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Especially since it's subsidized, right? So you actually buy meat below the cost of production.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So because the corn is like subsidized, that feeds the animals, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes in. Like the true cost of a Big Mac apparently is around like $15 or something. If you actually to figure out all the externalities and the costs of actual production.
Really?
Yeah. So it's subsidized by the government. They'll pay people in the government to like speaking fees, and then those people make laws that are allowing those foods to be subsidized heavily. So the USDA doesn't even subsidize foods in alignment with its own dietary guidelines. So it's saying eat more fruits and vegetables, but that gets a tiny percentage of the subsidies. Where it's saying eat less meat, but that gets tons of subsidies.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense, right? So it's because the meat industry is funding and corrupting the government regulations. But anyway, so that's why like the food that's really bad for you, one of the reasons why it's subsidized below cost of production and it's
so
really cheap food. Yeah. But you can eat, that's the other myth, right, is people think that plant-based food is expensive. Now, it can be if you're eating at fancy plant-based restaurants and you're eating heavily processed food that took a lot of processing and therefore more money.
Yeah.
But if you're eating like staples of like beans, peas, lentils, grains, those things are actually cheaper. And there's actually been a study done, it was an assessment of what if people went completely plant-based versus, say, half the meat. Mm-hmm. And if you went completely plant-based and you were trying to be frugal and save money, on average, you'd save $750 a year. Whereas if you do a true paleo diet, on average, they think people would need 10% higher income.
Wow.
And it's funny, some of the carnivore people I see that sell meat, I've seen people post they can't even afford to buy their own products that they're selling.
Yeah.
Because it's so expensive.
Maybe they subsidize that food because it makes you sick and then you need medicine.
Well, there is. I mean, it could start to get into too much of the conspiracy sort of.
That's why you're here.
I'm not much of a conspiracy. So, I mean, but there
no,
are.
me either. It just occurred to me as you were talking.
But those entities are actually, often have ownership in the meat industry and in the pharmaceutical industry. But again, you could go down that rabbit hole, but that's not really.
It could just be because that's where the money is, because people love meat and people love drugs and not dying.
Yeah.
They love not dying.
Yeah, and people like to be able to take a pill, right?
Just instead of doing the work.
Yeah, instead of doing the work or eating healthier or exercising or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like 80% of the leading causes like chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, are all could be prevented and reversed via lifestyle. The primary thing is a diet, switching to a plant-based diet.
So what do you think? So you were raised in England, you said, right?
Yeah.
In the UK. And you were a fighter. You're a tough guy. You could kick my ass, and I'm pretty tough. What do you think it is about the not male, but just the masculines? Because there's women that exhibit masculine traits also, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But
traditionally sort of male, yeah.
Like, why is it considered? Because I have a thing about religious or spiritual or kind people. I always I'm set out to. There's a cough button right there if you want to just cough right into the mic. Just go nuts.
There you go. I've been talking for 2 days straight Smith, in some meetings. So,
wait, what was I just saying?
I don't think that worked.
No, it worked.
It did?
Yeah, it was good.
I'll try again.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't hear nothing.
Okay.
What was I just saying, Shannon? Help me.
You were talking about the masculine stuff, male identity. You were going down a topic. Why is it that they, something along those lines, right?
Masculinity tagged to meat, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. What's your
Women
favorite? What's
with
your favorite color?
Blue, oddly enough, which
Yeah.
is, again, traditionally masculine. But
I was talking about kind people. So my mission in life is to be a 250-pound meathead who looks like something that I'm not, because I like being surprising to people. Because typically, if someone is really, really, really nice and like calm and serene or whatever, they're like, they have a ponytail and they bow to you and shit. And like they're weird. Namaste. And I love you, brother. And like, I just don't like that because it makes me uncomfortable. I feel like that is compensating for something inside that is maybe a little sick. And I'm sick too. I can, I'm not a perfect person, but I do know who I am. And I know that I feel better when I'm being nice to people. Period. End of story. So that's something that I've come to terms with. And I guess being secure in who you are, like I didn't even think twice about not eating meat.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit who thought what. I actually thought I kind of was like, I hope people get a kick out of it because I look nothing like a vegan at all.
Right.
And now I say I'm vegan. It hasn't been that long, but it is surprising to people. Did you find people were surprised years ago when you first went plant-based?
yeah, no, definitely in the gyms to start with. But then people started in Orange County. There was a lot of
Uriah Faber.
my gym and those gyms. Yeah,
I know Uriah Faber was a big proponent of a plant-based diet. You know who that is?
Yeah,
the fighter?
Yeah, no, I lent him some shorts once. Before he was in the UFC, he showed up to King of the Cage, and I fought on the same card as him. And he asked if he could borrow some of my fight shorts for a fight. And I still haven't gotten back to this day. So
he stole your shorts?
Yeah, he owed me some shorts.
Uriah Faber,
But,
give the man his shorts back.
No, so there's quite a few people in Orange County that sort of MMA gyms started going more plant-based and some vegan fighters. So I think that, the perceptions, like, a couple of years ago, it was like 8 out of 10 people that were vegetarian or vegan were female.
Yeah.
And I think men were more resistant because they want to be like, I'm a hunter, I'm tough. And if you're insecure about your masculinity, you've got to do... you've got to sort of exhibit behavior you think other people see as masculine.
Yeah.
But if you're confident in yourself, then you don't really give a shit what people think. Yeah.
I don't even care what I think. I truly don't.
I mean, if you feel better on it and you're performing better and it's better for you, then I don't really care. It's, what other people think.
Did you expect or account for all the resistance that came out with the movie? Did you think the movie was going to be as big as it was, or would you just kind of like...
Yeah, we knew it was going to be big with the names attached and the quality. We knew we'd made something good. I mean, it's difficult to view it objectively when you're in and you've watched it hundreds of times in the edit. And but we were pretty confident it was going to be big. And we knew there was going to be pushback, but that pushback also helps, right? Because it creates awareness of the of what you're talking about, and people want to watch it.
Yeah.
So I think every time someone talks smack on the film, I think more people end up going plant-based.
Of course.
Because more people end up watching the film, and then they'll see like the debate on Joe Rogan that I did, and it was just more people. So it's great. The more people want to talk smack on it, because they believe in the carnivore diet, or the industry-funded folks, or they're really into the paleo diet or whatever. That's actually, when they talk smack, is actually good for us. So I welcome that.
Did you watch any of the debunking videos or any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've definitely watched some of them, especially the Chris Kresser one.
I was bothered by... I just don't like. I understood first of all when they were talking about cherry picking data. I don't even know what they meant by that, but I do know that if you're trying to make a movie, you got to make some decisions and choose what to include and what not to include.
It's crazy, right? So you can basically make that claim anytime. So if you're going to make a scientific claim, you have to have a reference to back it up. Mm-hmm. So you can't say, here is all of the science that's ever been done on the topic. So you have to choose some studies. So you can just make that claim. So if you just throw out the words debunked, cherry-picked, and then people want to believe that, they're going to believe it. You know? But then the people that are actually sort of objective and are willing to look at the science, that's why we're happy to debate people because, it's just people are just trying to come in with arguments, and a lot of them are straw man. They... like, for example, a lot of people say, they claimed the gladiators were vegan, and here's proof that they weren't vegan. First of all, they're not even using science. They're using sort of historical stories. Which
I saw 300, bro. He was jacked. No
so
way
he can't have been vegan, right? If he's jacked, So, we didn't say that. The scientists said predominantly vegetarian, and I said it fueled mostly by plants.
People
so
hear what they
straw man. Yeah, people already decided what they thought about the film before they even saw it.
Yeah.
So... people talk smack and they try and debunk it, but I haven't seen any good arguments yet.
The one that bothered me the most was Chris Kresser was talking about the peanut butter sandwich and the lentil argument. And Chris looked at Joe, and this is why I love Joe, because Joe just doesn't care. He's obviously very secure in who he is. He's cute, but he's also very curious.
Right.
And he's enthusiastic.
He's a smart guy. Yeah.
Exactly. And Chris goes... I forgot exactly the framing, but he said, 2 pieces of wheat bread with 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And my first thought was, has this guy ever measured out peanut butter? 1 tablespoon of peanut butter wouldn't even cover a fucking half a piece of the bread.
Right.
So Chris goes, you would need 5 tablespoons of peanut butter to match the protein requirement.
Which wasn't true, yeah.
And Chris goes, have you ever had 5 tablespoons of peanut butter? And Joe goes, I don't think I've ever had 1, to be honest with you. Like, I eat peanut butter and I measure my food almost every meal I've had in the last 7 years has been measured.
Yeah.
So I guess I know. And one of my favorite memes that I've ever made was just a picture of a peanut butter. I said, if you ever want to know how far out of touch with reality you are, just measure out a serving size of peanut butter.
Right.
And that one went nuts because once people do it, they see 2 tablespoons is like,
that's not that bad. Like,
you do that by accident.
Right.
There's no problem.
Yeah, because like when people take a tablespoon, they don't actually take an actual tablespoon measurement. They
don't
scoop
take
it up, and
grams.
it's like it's 2 or 3 like piled on top of each other. Yeah.
And it's great. It's so good.
Yeah.
But just I don't know. I feel like people, like you said, they made their mind up. That's what they do in general. They make their mind up on a topic or a subject before they even get the information, which is so dangerous. And it's such a huge problem in just mankind in general. It happens with politics. I remember when what was the guy's name? Kavanaugh, the Kavanaugh trial with Christine Ford, and she said he raped him, and he said he didn't. And I remember feeling very upset and disheartened that you could tell whether somebody was Republican or Democrat by who they believed in this case.
Right.
And I was like, that's fucked up. That's not okay that like Republicans believe him and Democrats believe her.
Just because
of the way they vote. That's bizarre.
Right.
So I guess veganism and diet is an important part of being a human. And I guess, like identity politics, people have identity diets, and like you were saying, they kind of tie their personality to what they eat.
Yeah, and their behavior,
which is weird. Did you guys get into that at all on the back end of the movie, the psychology behind that?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of looked into it as we were making the film, and it sort of actually tied into my own journey, because I felt as a man like I needed it, and it wasn't just about being an athlete. It was also like as a man, I felt like some of that, and it does sort of line up with the behavioral psychology that men really feel they need to eat meat in order to be male. But I think that perception has really changed since the film's come out. You've got sort of...
Very quick, too.
Yeah, you've got traditional male sort of role models from all walks of life, firefighters, athletes, soldiers, plumbers, police officers, eating this way now.
Yogis, yoga instructors.
Yeah. Well, that's the space it was in before, right? Like in the 60s and 70s.
And how sad that it was just confined to that because of the identity of people.
Yeah.
That people were keeping themselves from feeling this way. I remember being early teens and seeing... I had not met many zealots yet when it came to just anything in life. And I remember I hadn't formed an opinion about zealots yet, or people who were pushy about, whether it was religion or diet or a way to live. And Martina Navratilova was in an infomercial for a juicer. And she came out and she's like, she apologized for her enthusiasm. She goes, I just want everybody to feel how good I feel in the morning. And I was like, oh, she thinks she's doing us a favor. She's not being pushy or a dick or annoying.
Right.
She made a change. It helped her. And that actually softened me up on everybody, especially religious people. Because religious people, when people get saved by Christ or they have an experience and they start pushing it on you, it is a little much, but now I understand where it's coming from. It's like they think
they're coming from a good place, right?
They literally think they're keeping you from going to hell.
Right.
So how could they? Their conscience won't allow them not to say anything.
Right.
So I'm fascinated by humans and how they respond to suggestion and discovering information on their own. And I feel like there's two different kinds of people, and I'm kind of both. I do like discovering stuff on my own, but suggestions have gotten me pretty far in life because there's a lot I don't know about.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
totally. And you can't dig into everything yourself, so
It's too much.
Yeah.
And so has this become not an avocation for you, but this is something you're obviously very passionate about.
No, yeah. I definitely want to keep encouraging people to shift in a plant-based direction. I care about people's health, and it's great that they can perform better, and also like with my dad especially, people care about their loved ones, even if like young guys or young women don't care about themselves that much. A lot of people do care about the health of their aunts, their uncles, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and I care about that, and I want that sort of to extend.
Is your dad still doing okay with the diet?
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's happening with him? For those of you who didn't see the movie, you kind of worked it into the movie where you...
Yeah, well, we're in the middle of filming. So my dad had a heart attack. And so I had 2 stents put in, emergency surgery. And, his cholesterol was high and all this other stuff. And now he switched to a plant-based diet and is just doing much better. Looks healthier, feels better.
Yeah.
And so, because I was really looking at it from a performance and recovery perspective for myself, and then I realized that the same biological mechanisms that affect performance also affect health. So inflammation and blood flow and, these types of stuff. So when my dad had the heart attack, that's what really got me sort of looking more into the health aspect. And I didn't care as much about it, but as I'm getting older, I want to be around for my kids and then eventually have grandkids. And I think one of the strong motivators for me is I really felt lied to by the industry. And so that's why I want to sort of keep spreading this knowledge and like what I've uncovered and just, people should eat whatever they want to eat, right? But, and I don't want to be telling people what to eat. I just want to sort of show the myths, uncover them, destroy them, show some more facts, and then people can make their own decisions, right? And I do hope it encourages more plant-based eating. I'm not saying it has to be all or nothing or vegetarian or vegan. I do hope people shift in general to more plant-based eating. It's better for their health. It's better for athletic and sexual performance, and it's also better for the planet as well.
Now, when you say like plant-based versus vegan, because I've had to explain to people a few times what the change I made was, and is vegan more of an ethical-based decision?
Well, I think if you're vegan, if you just say I am vegan, then I think it applies to outside of diet, right? So it might apply to leather or buying pets versus adopting, rescuing them, or, whatever. It might extend to that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you could say that I eat a vegan diet, but that would say I'm not eating any animal products at all. So I think a vegan diet is a plant-based diet, but a plant-based diet isn't necessarily a vegan diet.
Gotcha.
So I think most vegetarian diets are plant-based, vegan diets are plant-based.
Yeah.
Even Mediterranean diet that might have less than 10% of calories, you could argue is plant-based. So it's really eating the vast majority of calories from plants is, I think, what's important. And it's important what you're doing most of the time, not what you're doing occasionally.
Yeah.
That's going to have the biggest impact. Now, I do think that there's benefits, but I think there's probably diminishing returns. Going 90% plant-based versus 50% is probably going to be a huge benefit. Going from 90% to 100%, that benefit might not be as big. I still think it exists.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit harder to show in the science because
it's a matter of how much you want to suffer. Because that day after you eat the dairy is it's a bad one.
Yeah, and you can
not a
often
great day.
feel a difference. Yeah.
I was very interested in the movie. You had Conor McGregor talking about how he what did he ate 2 steaks?
2 steaks a day. Yeah, trying to bulk up.
Because he's a notorious, no pun intended, notoriously gassed fighter, especially in the later rounds. Is that directly related, or is that what the point of the movie was trying to make? Or
he himself said, it was a battle of energy in there. Yeah, right. And Nate and Nick Diaz both have always had crazy endurance and been eating plant-based for a long time. And they do actually sometimes. Nick, for example, I think maybe even Nate, but definitely Nick has fought one night and the next morning got up early and gone and done a triathlon.
Wow.
And Nate also does triathlons, like in between training and They're actually good triathletes as well, so really good endurance. Now, of course, some of that is the training, and you could say, well, this person just naturally got better endurance, but Conor cut down on his meat consumption after that fight, and then he was doing better endurance-wise. So you can't say for sure it's the diet. I think there's a lot of anecdotal stuff that you can't really prove, but
Genetics,
it does
maybe.
Yeah, but it does line up with the science, right? So if you put those two together, you've got some anecdotal stories, and then you've got some science which sort of explains why that's true.
Yeah.
And within the science, there's the epidemiology. It's like the observational stuff. There's like these randomized controlled trials. There's preclinical data where they're testing stuff in. It's crazy. If you drip the blood of a meat eater onto cancer cells, versus dripping the blood of vegans onto cancer cells, the vegans, like, it's 9 times greater the cancer reduction just in a petri dish.
Really?
So yeah. But that's not enough, right? Because that wouldn't be convincing. You're like, is that true in the human body? That's why you need randomized controlled trials, and then say, okay, we know about these factors, but those are typically short term.
What is a randomized controlled trial?
So you're taking you're randomizing people.
Yeah.
So you're not like I can't pick and say, oh well, I'll take all the big strong guys and put them on something and all the weak guys.
Okay.
So you're randomizing people.
I'm asking for the listeners, by the way. I know exactly what a randomized controlled study is. So
yeah, and often it's like double blind. So neither the participants or the people giving, let's say it's a drug trial.
Yeah.
Right? If you're giving them both a blue pill, one's an actual pill, one's a placebo that does actually nothing other than the placebo effect. And so you would randomize those people and seeing what the actual outcome is if you intervene in that situation. Versus observational would be, okay, let's look either retroactively or prospectively. Like, let's just talk to people and say, what did you eat over the last 30 years? And then look at incidences of heart disease or cancer.
Yeah.
Or you can do prospective observational studies where you say, okay, let's track what you eat for the next 30 years, right? And then after 30 years, ask them what happened. So that's more accurate than a retrospective where people are trying to remember what they ate.
Yeah.
But the randomized control trial would be, you're randomizing people, there's a control group, right, that's eating maybe the same day. So you keep people on a standard American diet and you put them on a paleo diet or you put them on a plant-based diet and you can see what happens. The downside of that is you can't do that for 30 years because you're not going to be. So you've got to look at the preclinical data, like in the test tube or petri dish, or even in animal models, and then randomized controlled trials.
So preclinical means humans are not involved?
Directly, right. You could be. It could be animal studies, and it could be taking a human's blood and putting them in a petri dish.
Yeah,
but not directly. And so you sort of look at these 3 areas, and you can draw conclusions from that, right? And like, where is all the evidence pointing? And it's very clear with all the world leading health organizations and all the vast majority of scientists, you're always going to get some people, you're always going to find one doctor that's going to say anything.
Yeah.
Right? You can get people that say the earth is flat.
Yeah.
But that's not like the leading scientific consensus.
Yeah.
You can get people saying, oh, you should be eating lots of meat, but that's not the leading scientific consensus. So the scientific consensus is to eat, predominantly or all of your calories from plants.
And how long has that been the scientific consensus?
Only over the last 5 years or so, I would say.
What is wrong with us?
Yeah,
Why can't we figure out the human
because
body?
you've got industry influence. You've got these psychological aspects where people are tied to meat eating. You've got cultural aspects. It's difficult for people to accept. It's not like it's only about science. There's funding coming in. There's these preconceived notions, and also it takes a long time typically.
Filet mignon tastes pretty good.
And the taste, there's taste factors, convenience factors, what you're used to, social structures. But if you look back in the 1930s, they were pretty sure that smoking was indicated in lung cancer. But in the 80s, the industry was still arguing for 50 years until it became like, it wasn't only until the 90s where people actually bought into the public perception. So it takes a long time from scientific studies to get into the medical literature, to get into the public sort of smear and the public domain of knowledge.
Do you think that's what's happening right now with meat?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we've known for quite some time that meat is detrimental to health, and it's taking a while to get, when you've got the industry fighting it and these preconceived notions and social structures, you're fighting an uphill battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like David versus Goliath. because we've been eating meat for a long time. And
That's what I was actually thinking about before when you were talking about industry, because you're just one guy. You put out a massive movie, but
Right.
you're fighting a massive battle
massive
against.
industry. But the good thing is, so if you'd have asked me a couple of years ago, do you even fear for your safety
Yeah.
in putting this film out? I would have been a lot more fearful a couple of years ago. In the last couple of years, those industries are just trying to make money. They don't care
Yeah.
whether you eat meat or whether you eat plant-based.
Yeah.
So they're seeing where the trend is going.
Yeah.
Right? So people are starting to realize it's better for your health to eat plants. They're starting to realize, those people that care about the planet, leaving a healthy planet for their grandchildren, they realize it's bad to eat meat. So people are shifting. So that's where the money is. So what are the plant-based companies doing? They started investing in the plant-based companies, and now they're just putting out their own plant-based meat.
Yeah.
Because they're seeing where the shift is going. So
That's like Marlboro getting into the vaping, the vaping stuff.
right, totally. They're just going to
Yeah.
go wherever the money goes, right? If people don't want to buy cigarettes anymore, they want to vape, they're going to get into the vaping, right? And so I think the meat industry was hesitant at first, but now they're seeing where it's going. So I'm less fearful now that I'm going to get taken out.
Why? What made you fear for your safety a few years ago?
Well, I think there's a lot of money to be lost.
Yeah.
I'm not. Even when I won the Ultimate Fighter, I got death threats. Right?
How
That's
come?
for no reason. I don't know. People just didn't like that I was British and I was living in America. And I was on the British team, but I trained in America for 10 years.
I did ads for Bloomberg for president. I got some death threats.
Wow.
Yeah, just weird. I mean, they don't mean anything to me. I know
Yeah.
that usually the more extreme it is, the less serious I take it. If someone goes, hey man, you're getting less funny, that hurts more than somebody being like, I'm outside your house, I'm going to fucking kill you right now.
Yeah, totally. Well, also,
They
like,
know it's a lie.
in England, we have this saying that like stabbers don't show and showers don't stab.
Yeah.
So like if someone's like waving a knife in your face,
Yeah.
they're less likely to stab you than the guy that's got it tucked behind the armpit.
Yeah.
That's going to just shank you.
Yeah.
So it's probably the same thing. Like people, if someone really wanted to come take me out,
They don't tell you.
They're not going to hit me up on social media.
No.
You know what I mean? Give me a heads up.
No.
So I don't know. I just think it is significantly affecting the industry, but I think it's shifting that way anyway. You
Yeah.
know? And you've seen with all the fast food restaurants now getting into it, and so the meat industry is
Dunkin'
sort of
Donuts, you
getting
can go to Dunkin' Donuts and get
totally.
a Beyond sandwich or whatever it is. But
Yeah,
they
yeah,
put
yeah.
cheese on it, which is annoying.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
you
well.
want. You don't have to get it with the cheese.
Yeah.
Vegan cheese sucks.
I think there's a few decent brands now.
Shannon, did I just hurt your feelings?
I think there's
There
a
are some
few
good ones.
Yeah, there are
Like
some.
what?
Daya, Violite.
Daya cream cheese is pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't had the cheese.
Is good
Yeah, there's a
butters.
few brands. I'm not really familiar with the names, but there's definitely a few good brands
Yeah.
out there, and yeah, I think it's getting better. And some of them, yeah, I agree they're not so great. And I just don't. I eat that stuff occasionally, but again, I'm trying to eat more whole foods.
Yeah. So what do you eat?
I mean, for breakfast, I often have oatmeal with
You said banana before.
yeah, banana, yeah, oatmeal with bananas and banana. Banana.
Banana. That's
Banana.
right, bro. You're in New York.
I say it in New York.
Banana.
Banana.
Yeah.
Banana.
Banana.
Yeah. Banana.
This guy's gonna punch my head off.
No, so bananas and berries and like flaxseed and maybe some almond butter or peanut butter.
And
or
how many hours does that get you through a day?
maybe like 3.
Okay. So
No, I eat again. So I eat like probably 4 times a day, maybe.
and then what do you like? What do you do on the go?
My wife makes these great bars that I often
She makes
take.
bars?
Yeah. Like I have oats and dates and stuff like that.
She makes her own?
Yeah, and like in a not a blender. What do you call it? A food mixer.
A bar you're talking
Yeah,
about.
just don't even have to cook it, and then you just put them in the fridge, and then you just cut it up and eat them. Or there's stuff you can buy, right? Like these fruit and nut bars. Like
Is that recipe on the website?
No, it is actually. Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
I was gonna
look
say
that up.
secret, but no.
Yeah.
So I'm just like that's one option, but there's these sort of fruit and nut bars, like a Lara bar.
Yeah.
My favorite flavor is like the cashew cookie.
Okay. So even though that's processed somewhat, you'll still eat that.
Well, so like a Lara bar is just literally dates and nuts.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's processed in the fact that it's like mushed together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's it.
It's in plastic.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, I wish, I hate when people say things that stick with me because they're so untrue a lot of the times.
Yeah.
The guy goes, if you can unwrap it, you shouldn't eat it. And like, that's
Well,
not,
meat comes wrapped usually.
I know, it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
That like, I believed him. I was like, holy shit.
You know what the funniest thing is that I find that we haven't ever really talked about, but people say, "Oh, fucking, I don't eat processed food." I was like, "Oh, okay." So you take like grain and corn, and then you take it and you crush it up, and you add some enzymes, and then it passes down a tube and sits in a bucket of acid, and then it like absorbs through the villi. I'm talking about a cow eating food.
Yeah.
Like, that's the greatest process that you could do.
Yeah.
But people like to say, like, there's in philosophy, there's this naturalistic fallacy, right? So because it's natural, then it's fine. But, like, what have you done to that food? You have, like, extracted, the cow takes the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber for itself.
Yeah.
And then gives you, like, adds in saturated fat and advanced glycation end products and bacterial endotoxins. Like, it's not doing you any favors. And it's this crazy process.
Yeah.
So, like, taking whole plant foods from the ground, where you could just get all of the protein and the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber and everything else directly from the source, and you can hyper process it through an animal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
in the movie, when you referred to the animals as the middlemen, a huge light bulb went on over my head. Because for the longest time, I didn't understand why eating meat was associated with environmental concerns. I just didn't get it. And when you say, what is it, 6 times the amount of protein?
For the protein.
So
calories is actually a lot more.
So a cow requires 6 times more protein just to live.
I think animals on
than it
average,
yields.
I can't remember whether the cow is exactly, but
Yeah.
on average, yeah.
But 6 times, I pictured like eating, grass. Obviously, I'm not going to eat grass, but like whatever patch of land could have grown vegetation that I could eat, 6 times that, times 8 billion, like that's the problem. Is that people,
I mean, it's like 26,000 people dying of starvation every day.
Yeah.
And we're taking grains often from the countries in which those people are dying.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I mean, it's madness, right?
To call them middlemen, though, just really because I understood. I used to take fish oil, and I would get it, third party tested for heavy metals and whatever. And I was able to understand how that works because small fish get eaten by slightly bigger fish,
it's the
get eaten
same
by
concept, right?
all the way up to salmon and halibut and tuna. These things are loaded with mercury, even though I don't necessarily understand why mercury is in all the fish in the first place.
Well,
but
it's actually some of it's organic and they're like just naturally occurring,
naturally occurring in the fish's body.
No, in the water.
In the water, okay.
Originally.
Yeah.
And then some of it is runoff from industrial processes.
Oh.
That makes it also into the water.
Yeah.
So you've got it in the water, and then the algae would absorb some of it, and then the krill, and then the smallest fish. So you get what's called bioaccumulation, and then up the trophic levels, as smaller animals are eaten by bigger animals.
Yeah.
Of course, one fish doesn't eat one fish. It eats multiple fish. And then that fish is now... In England, we had this game of conkers where, the one I'm talking about?
No.
It's like this thing that falls from a tree, and you hit it, and if I break your conker, then mine's a 2er, and then someone beats mine. You get those points. It builds up. So it magnifies like this.
Yeah.
And so the same thing, it's magnifying as you go up the levels. So the largest fish actually have up to 1 million times the amount of mercury per gram as the surrounding water.
Wow.
Right? And so this concept is the same. You always want to get your nutrients as low on the food chain as possible, because otherwise you're going to have more pesticides, more of what these called persistent organic pollutants. Like there's stuff still in the environment from the 70s.
Persistent organic pollutants?
Yeah, POPs.
Yeah.
So it's not just pesticides. So pesticides are also higher, much higher. And people are like, you spray the crops. Oh, well, what do you think the crops are that the animals eat? That's not even human grade.
Yeah.
The food that the animals eat, not even human grade food, they can spray more pesticides on that.
Yeah.
Now that bioaccumulates. So if you currently take a fish oil, if you take a fish oil pill, just do a very simple switch. Just take an algae oil pill. Because there was 20 fish oil pills studied, of which the ones that claimed to be toxin free had the same amount of toxins as the ones that didn't claim to be toxin free. So
they don't regulate it that well.
Right. It's not very well regulated. So just get if you really think you have to have what's called the preformed DHA and EPA omega-3s.
Yeah.
Then just take an algae-based oil, that's not got the toxins in it.
And that has the same nutrients that you're looking for.
It's exactly the same. It's the original source. So basically, you can either take alpha linoleic acid.
Shannon, can you write that down? Algae pill, algae oil.
Algae oil. Yeah, but you can take you can get ALA.
Yeah.
Which is a short chain omega-3 from walnuts, or flaxseed is probably one of the best sources. It has to be ground flaxseed.
Uh-huh.
And your body can convert that. Now, as you get older, and
what about flaxseed oil?
I would go with the whole flaxseed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
This poor guy's been talking for 48 hours.
No, that's great. It's
His
cool.
voice box is shredded.
No, that's cool. Been talking a lot recently. And anyway, so you can convert that, right, to what's called EPA and DHA, these longer chain omega-3s, or you could take those indirectly. But if you're going to take it indirectly, get it as low on the food chain as possible.
Yeah.
Just get it from algae oil rather than, so if you really think you need that, and it gets a little bit complex, but of why you might need it or not. But as an insurance, I guess it's...
What is your IQ? Do you know?
It's funny you should ask that, actually.
Is it like 230?
No. So I only took one IQ test once online. And it was when my son, yeah, exactly. So the funny thing was, though, I was feeding my son and it was based on time. And I don't think it was reliable, number one. But funny enough, it was based on time and I was feeding my son and talking with him at the same time as I was taking the test.
Yeah.
And I was 1 point below genius. And so, again, it's just an online thing. I don't even know if it was legit, really.
Yeah, but you're obviously...
It was through Mensa or something. So, but the funny thing was, so like...
I don't even know, Mensa or something like that, whatever it's called.
Yeah, no, so the funny thing was...
Do you really not know what Mensa is?
No, I know what it is. But I think it was Mensa or one of those...
Like the Genius Club, yeah.
No, I know what it is, yeah.
I just asked a genius if he knows what Mensa is. What's wrong with me?
No. So subgenius. So it's a bit of a joke in my household. Like my stepdaughter bought me like an Einstein shirt with genius on it. But when I got it for Christmas, she'd put a little Post-it note.
Yeah.
With sub.
A little asterisk.
Subgenius. Yeah.
Just qualify.
No, I don't think I'm like particularly like intelligent guy. I think most people are pretty smart in their own way.
Fuck out of here.
No. But like people have just got.
I'm not laughing at you saying you're not smart. I'm laughing at you saying that other people are this smart.
No. But the thing is that traditional intelligence is like a very old way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And so people can be athletically intelligent, or there's like I think they've seen this formula of like there's 13 types of intelligence.
Yeah.
So I think people are just intelligent in different ways. I think a lot of people aren't reaching their potential because I think people need to find more what they're passionate about. Because I think it's difficult to I did not read a book from the age of 5 until the age of 30.
Well, that was my next question. So this curiosity and this thirst for knowledge and to understand, was that something that you had in you always, or was that something that was ignited by
only for something that I'm interested
by
in.
this topic?
So I didn't really enjoy school. So what I would do through college is I would read the introduction, the first paragraph of each chapter, and the conclusion, and the back of the book.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't ever read the whole book because I just didn't find it interesting.
Yeah.
But then with martial arts, I found it interesting. I started reading some martial arts books, but I never read books. And then I really started reading a lot more, getting into this nutrition stuff later on as well.
Do you read for fun or do you read for education and information?
Information only.
Yeah.
I don't read any fictional work.
Even like nonfiction, self-help kind of attitude stuff. Or is it all
Occasionally I read
science?
something like that. A lot of it is science. So even like in my downtime, like, it's the weekend, I might start reading about different arguments around leucine thresholds or...
Oh, riveting stuff.
Yeah.
How was
But I
your
want to see
weekend,
the other
James?
argument. Like sometimes if I see a decent argument, like, is that true? And then you look into it. Like people come out, with the... when Chris Kresser talked about the DIAS score, the dispensable amino acid score versus...
That's about protein, right?
Yeah, it's about protein quality.
Yeah.
And then if you really dig into it, like even during making the film, I hadn't dug as deep as I had for the getting ready for the debate on the DIAS score. Mm-hmm. You start thinking like, oh yeah, well it's actually studied in animals. They don't really study it in humans that much. And they've got a different amino acid requirement. Well, right there, that's not a great way to start analyzing what humans should be eating, right?
Yeah.
By looking at pigs and rats. It doesn't really make much sense. And then you can't actually look at, you have to look at individual amino acids. You can only look at single amino acids at a time, and it doesn't look at how a protein matrix might work. There's lots of, when you start thinking, why is the plant protein, what influences there been from the industry? What are the flaws with that system? We're basically coming up with the best way of trying to analyze protein. But the thing is, it doesn't play out. If you're going to come up with ideas and mechanisms and scoring systems, if it's going to be valid, it also better play out in the outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just not true. So all the studies that look at vegetarians or vegans, there's no study that's looking at a vegetarian or vegan or plant-based diet where people are getting a 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram or more, where they've got less muscle.
Yeah.
Just isn't.
So 30 grams of plant protein is the same in the body as 30 grams of animal protein.
No. So it depends what you're looking for. So people always talk about quality of protein. Well, actually, high quality animal protein actually might be bad for certain reasons in terms of there's certain people that there's quite a lot of scientists that think that having too much leucine, it increases your IGF-1, which increases the mTOR pathway, which increases to higher risk of cancer. Right? So
You're using a lot of big words right now. So I'm going to take it as disrespect.
It's just insulin like growth factor. It's basically, I don't know. So
Have you ever seen 40-Year-Old Virgin?
yeah.
Yeah, that was Kevin Hart.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Watch your mouth.
Yeah.
mTOR pathways?
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
So
It's a mammalian target of rapamycin. No, I mean, it doesn't matter, but basically, so when you talk about quality of protein, no. So it's interesting because, like, is 10 grams of plant protein the same as 10 grams of animal protein? The answer is no, in terms of anabolism and building muscle.
yeah.
But is 40 grams of animal protein the same as 40 grams of plant protein? In many cases, the answer might be yes.
And what happens from 10 to 40?
Because there's thresholds.
Oh, okay.
So what you actually need to meet is 8 to 10 grams of essential amino acids.
Gotcha.
And 2.5 grams of leucine. Some potentially sometimes more in some studies, but that's pretty well accepted. 2.5 grams of leucine.
Yeah.
So once you've met those things, those criteria, then you've got just as much muscle protein synthesis. Okay. Now, the other thing that people don't take into account is that it can't just be about short term, like less than 4-hour muscle protein synthesis, because we also know that you can't just have 20 grams of whey protein, which is like one of the most anabolic for the amount of grams of protein. It can't just be about that, because if 20 grams of whey or whatever, 25 grams of whey or whatever optimizes short-term muscle protein synthesis, you would think that having that 4 times a day would be as good as having 50 grams of whey, but it's not. It's actually better to have, in terms of building muscle.
Yeah.
And again, it's optimizing muscle mass. You can still build muscle with less protein, but it's not optimizing it. So you seem to do better when you'll hit this leucine threshold 4 times a day and this essential amino acid threshold, but you're also getting about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of protein in the day. So it's not just about, people will argue about short-term muscle protein synthesis, but it's not directly tied to long-term muscle accrual, which is what you care about. Yeah, right? If you're trying to build muscle.
That's something that I always felt like was a mentality that was created by the supplement industry, that you got to have, 30 grams of protein within half an hour of working out, or you wasted all your energy and whatever.
No, I mean, well,
it just never made sense to me.
So the timing thing is a little bit more complex than we used to think.
Yeah.
But actually, some of the bro science is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So some of the bro science, like the old 1 gram per pound, actually isn't that far off from the science.
Well, that's 250 grams of protein for me.
Yeah, that's 2.2, right? Now there's actually, it's 2.2 grams per kilogram.
Per kilogram.
Yeah, so 1 gram per pound actually isn't far off on the high end.
Okay.
So the average, that's fairly well accepted, is 1.6, but there's a large confidence interval. So some people actually might be okay on 1 gram per kilogram.
Okay.
And some people might need 2.2 grams per kilogram. Does that make sense?
Depending on their genetics?
So there's a large 0.6 grams range. Yeah. Depending on their genetics.
Or based on how much they're working, or...
Well, the more you work, and so actually, if you want to get into nitty gritty, it depends on the amount of muscle groups that you're working. So if you're doing only bicep curls and tricep extensions in a workout, you need less protein in the next 24 hours than you do if you did squats and deadlift and cable rows and bench press.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you recruit more muscle fibers and do complex exercises, you're likely to require more in that next 24 hours.
Yeah, because I haven't been paying attention to protein intake at all over the last 4 months.
Yeah.
And
how's it been? Have you lost any size?
No.
Yeah.
And I actually, I reduced, so I had a guy in here, his name is Mike Israetel, and he's just a really, another smart kind of guy whose opinions I respect and whose interpretation of the data I respect, and he puts it out in a very easily digestible way. I just like him. And he kind of scared me a little bit when I said, jokingly, how do I, not be a 250-pound, 80-year-old meathead? And he goes, no, don't worry, you won't, it won't happen. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like, how do I do it? He goes, no, you won't make it. Like you won't live that long if you're 250 pounds. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then it scared me a little bit. And I was like, I know that things happen as you get older, muscle deteriorates. Like I feel very heavy in my life in general. 250 pounds is just, it's a lot of weight. It doesn't matter, muscle, bone, skin, it doesn't matter. Gravity is playing against me always. I feel very weighed down.
Right.
So I was hoping that when I cut out the animal products, that I would lose some muscle mass because I don't care about being jacked anymore. I'm almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
And it really it hasn't made that much of a difference at all.
So I don't think most guys, even at your age, are. How old are you?
39.
Yeah. So close. I'm 41.
Yeah.
I don't think most guys, even our age, are saying, "Yeah, I want to lose some muscle mass."
I would love to lose some muscle and some fat too. Just be smaller.
But so I would say that's the type of training that you're having and how many calories you're eating. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I think it's true that you can get enough protein to optimize muscle mass on a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
But also, it's not like you can if you just take meat off your plate and you leave the rice and vegetables, then you're not going to get, if you're trying, and your goal is in this small subset of trying to build as much muscle as possible, as fast as possible, then you are going to be deficient in protein. Like that's the thing where like vegans will be off sometimes and say, don't worry about protein at all. Well, for the vast majority of people, that's true.
Yeah.
And you certainly can get as much, all the protein you need on a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And especially like for some people that take protein powder. I don't know why it suddenly became this thing where like, vegans can't take protein powder, but if you're on most protein powder is whey that's taken by omnivores. So I don't understand why there's this special exception for vegans, like, why you got to take protein?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you can get it from Whole Foods, but
Do you take, but vegans,
occasionally I'll do a plant-based protein, but it's not like routinely. If I feel
but not whey.
No, not whey protein.
Whey's dairy.
Yeah, it comes from dairy.
Yeah.
So, where were we going? So, I don't know exactly what you're eating, but it's largely going to be about the type of training that you're doing. I imagine you're still training.
Yeah, but I do jujitsu 3 times a week, and I go to the gym twice a week and lift very light and very minimal. And it's just not.
So you've retained it even on the.
But I've also been lifting weights for 27 years or so, something like that. Like I got a lot of undoing to do.
Right,
it's not like I started working out 5 years ago and now I've done this. Like I've been big since I was 14 years old. I just got very big very fast.
Right.
Because I enjoyed working out. I lifted very heavy. I ate. I think my frame is just kind of like big.
Yeah, and it's funny though that people think that if you go on a plant-based diet, you're going to shrink all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you're even trying to shrink, and it's not. I mean, you certainly could do it by changing your training. Your calories, maybe lowering your protein.
Yeah.
I've never someone asked me, hey, how do I lose some muscle mass?
Yeah.
Obviously you could do it if you really wanted to. I think the thing is that people that are trying to fight the diet, they're trying to pick holes in it, and they're also trying to come up with extreme situations. So when they suddenly realize, if you want to build muscle as fast as possible, one, you need to be training in a way to build muscle as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And you also need to be in a caloric surplus.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd be eating if I was trying to build as much muscle as possible, I'd probably be on at least 3,500 calories a day. Well, when I'm doing 3,500 calories, I'm easily getting enough protein to optimize my muscle mass, right?
How many calories a day do you eat?
I don't even count.
Because I eat 3,500 by accident. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even count.
Maybe that's
anymore.
why I'm so big.
Maybe I'm 3,000, or I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't count. But I have counted certain foods. Like I know that a smoothie that I make that has no protein powder has 750 calories and 35 grams of protein.
Yeah.
With no protein powder or anything, just like Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Where was I going? I've been doing this other podcast and then there's 2 days of talking. But so you can get plenty of protein and people people are starting to go, oh yeah, but what if you're cutting weight for a competition that's coming up in a few weeks?
Yeah.
Now you've got to be in caloric deficit.
Yeah.
And when you're in caloric deficit, you actually need more protein than you would have had otherwise because of something called gluconeogenesis. You're creating new glucose from the protein. You're stealing the protein from what would have been used for building blocks and you're converting it into glucose because you're in a caloric deficit. You're not getting enough calories.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
And so your protein needs do go up.
Yeah.
But they're trying to paint this first of all, you've picked a subset of bodybuilders,
pre-contest bodybuilders.
Right, now you've picked pre-contest bodybuilders that didn't cut weight soon enough and now need to get a bunch of fat off in the last 2 weeks. So that's really your argument. That's how strong your argument is really. Your argument is I'm going to pick a small subset of society.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't trying to build as much muscle as fast as possible and be professional bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And then you're going to take a small subset of that and then try and prove it wrong with that. Well, if that's your case and you really need to be very low calorie and get as much protein as possible, okay, sure, take a protein, then that's going to be a good case for taking a plant-based protein supplement.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it's still not an argument against veganism at that point.
No.
Because, so I don't, people.
You should just put everyone in a headlock who disagrees with it. James, we got to wrap up. You're a genius, Billy Zane. Is what I'm going to call you from now on.
Sub-genius. Yeah.
God damn it, you're fucking smart, man. Thank you. I'm so happy you came in. You made this movie that obviously was massively impactful. With that comes some controversy, but you had a tremendously positive impact on my life. I want to just thank you for doing the work to get the movie to the point where it got to, where you got through this thick Irish head of mine.
Awesome.
Where do you want people to find you? On Instagram? Where's your favorite platform?
Instagram, Game Changers Movie on Instagram is probably the best place. And then our website has got like tips and resources, recipes.
The website is the GameChangersMovie.com?
GameChangersMovie.com, yeah.
No, just GameChangersMovie.com.
Yeah, if they want to follow me, it's Lightning Wilks. On Instagram,
Yeah. Give it a shot. Just go into it with an open mind. If you're like I was, I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm just saying, like, I've always prefaced stuff that I don't know about with like there's something called like a set aside mentality, where like you just kind of just let me set aside everything I think I know about this topic so I can absorb new information. I've used it multiple times. I did it with the movie, and it's had a really positive impact on my life. So thank you for making the movie, and thank you for sitting with me for this long.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right.
Cool.
Bye.